Welcome to another episode of Two Ales and Hockey Tales with Wally. And today I am so excited to have on a 49-year-old from Stratford, Ontario, Canada. As a player, was a staple of the Stratford Carltons WMU Broncos, where he was on the All-CCHA rookie team and was the Rookie of the Year. And with the Broncos, had over 40 points every single season, all 4 years. Dominated the Whoople with the Amarillo Rattlers. 1 year had the most assist points, power play goals, shorthanded goals, and was named league MVP. The 2 seasons with Amarillo had 215 points in 131 games played. As a coach, entering his 22nd season, 19th in the NCAA, and as a head coach with the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point is a two-time NCAA runner-up and a national champion, and was kind enough to give yours truly a full ride to Western Michigan. Welcome to the podcast, Chris Brooks.
Thanks, Wally. Appreciate you having me, man. Great catching up.
Yeah, man, it's been since I had left Western. Or no, we talked once since then. You tried to recruit me to Rio Grande, right?
Yeah, when I got hired there in 2008.
That would have been the last time we talked, I bet.
Yeah, after you turned me down.
Yes, I did. I was a Bietigheim Steeler then, yeah.
Good
So
decision, probably.
yeah, no, I stick by it. um, so I guess I get into how we know each other, and you did recruit me out of the Elmira Sugar Kings, right?
I did, that whole area when I got hired at Western as a young coach. I mean, started making some roots up there and uh, got some dynamite players. We were very fortunate. Like you look at the kids that we landed when I worked there at Western with. Yeah, I mean yourself and Paul Davies and
Soupy.
Paul Shahura and Max Campbell and Jeff Campbell and Jarmuth, Nathan, like Daryl Moore, like all those kids, Kevin LeBon, like all those kids ended up being very good college players. And um, yeah, it was phenomenal. Those guys stepped in and impact right away. Exciting, the Watson brothers. And talk about all of them, and then up into Toronto, up once we got up there with the Blismos, and yeah, I mean all those kids were very very good college players.
Yeah, and it's a long time ago now, but yeah, like that. Those are the guys I'm getting back in contact with. A lot of
Yeah,
those guys you mentioned. I've had Jeff Campbell on, I've had
yeah,
Vince on, I've had Dan Bellissimo on,
yeah.
and Stretchy. Yeah.
Yeah, stretch it. Mhm.
No, it's great to start catching up with people that were a big part of your life, and you changed my life, bringing me to Western. I met my wife there, met all my best buddies there, and you guys gave me every opportunity to succeed as a player. You were my power play coach, and I took a lot of one timers my junior and senior year, eh?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're that's creative. Like it's real cool. That's one of the most gratifying thing about coaching is to, I mean, be able to give kids opportunities, be able to impact them, and being able to see them, take off. And a lot of guys, I say this all the time. A lot of kids really don't realize it when they're actually there until they get to be 35 or 40 years old, and then they start to reflect and they look back on the opportunities and they look back on the impact that coaches had on them. And I think that's probably one of the big reasons why I've stuck with this for as long as I have.
Well, I'll bring this up right now because that just came up. Is when I started this, it started bringing a lot of people together in the hockey world, and it's cool for me. But I posted on Instagram you were coming on, and a guy I don't know played for you at Stevens Point. Wrote to me, Kyle Brody, and just
Mhm.
mentioned the impact you had on his life, and what a great human you were. So, man, when you hear stuff like that, I don't know if you knew that, but um, it must be gratifying. And I'm just getting into minor hockey coaching, so it's pretty neat.
It is, like the longer that I get into it, like the thing is you become so much more mature as a coach. And I look back on my, my first 7, 8, 9, 10 years of coaching when I was a young coach. I got hired at Western Michigan when I was 26 years old. And I look back on, I wasn't a very good coach at that point. And I look back and now I look at, I keep more in touch with the players that I've coached recently. Last week I was on a recruiting trip out to Pittsburgh, and um, I went and played golf with a former captain of mine. I have players call me who are now having kids and getting married and getting invited to weddings. And I mean, like it's so much more for me as you mature and you grow, it becomes so much more, I think, relationship based.
Yep.
um I mean, like as a young coach, I was always like I was
Performance
very
and
I think I was very high strung, and I think I was, I mean, I hadn't really separated myself from being a player.
well, and that's one thing I was gonna say is I think we all knew you still could have been playing and you still
Yeah,
kind of wanted to be playing because
yeah,
we'd be doing 3-on-2 drills and you'd be in every one of them.
yeah,
2-on-1 drills, you couldn't hold you back either.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, I just, you just, as you mature and reflect, it becomes, it's different when you're a head coach. I was a head coach for, for 10 years with 3 years of pro and then 6 years at Stevens Point. And then, your role becomes so much different. Um, and a lot of the relationships that I have are relationships of recent years, and it's probably because I was a better coach in recent years, and have relationships with kids. And as I've grown and matured, it's probably become more about the process than it has about the result. And probably as a young coach, I was probably more focused on the result than I was on the process.
And a little more emotional too, right? Like
Yeah,
after a loss, like I
yeah,
remember when we would lose in college, like we would feel so horrible, right? And like
yeah,
instead of getting too high, too low, it was
yeah,
we would be so high after a win at home. Like it was
yeah,
like, we won the Stanley Cup and then we
sure,
would lose at Ferris and it was like the bottom of the bottom, right?
sure. Yeah, and I think that you just learn that through experience. And you know for me, for me, as I got head coaching experience, I learned that you have to focus on teaching so much more life lessons through the sport than actually focusing on the sport, and teaching life through the sport more so than teaching the sport through the sport. And as you do that, you gain respect and you gain relationships. And like you said, Kyle Brody was a perfect example. He came in as a transfer from Bemidji State, and came to me at Stevens Point. And I mean, I recruited him just with us and authenticity and honesty, and came in, had a great experience. And he's now coaching. He's coaching out in a youth program out in Wenatchee. So just to be able to see kids, kids that you coach stay in the game. Like I got a couple kids that I coached at Stevens Point that are now assistants in Dubuque. And I got all the guys that I worked for have moved on, and it's just great to be able to see them move on and stay within the game. And when they do that, you not only you feel like you're doing something right.
You definitely would because people that want to stay in the game and want to be around it had great experiences, right? They didn't leave the game pissed off. There's guys that
Yeah,
leave the game pissed off. There's guys that leave the game wanting more and can't leave
yeah,
it because they're just having too much fun, right? And if those guys are all staying in the game, then you definitely are doing something right, sir.
yeah. No, it's I've been very fortunate to be, and I've been fortunate to be around a lot of good people. Not only good players, but good people, and people that have people that have trusted me. And I mean, been very fortunate to have a lot of kids go on and have success.
You better watch your hands down there on that table, eh? I heard it that one time you were sliding around down there. Okay, you better be careful. I can tell you what to do now. You're not my coach anymore. um, but yeah, no, I remember you were the one that recruited me and to Western Michigan, and it was just such a no doubter. Like when I met you, and like you would come to recruit me, and like watch the game with your old man, right?
Yep. Yeah,
And
my
that's
dad.
different than some scouts, right? Some scouts aren't gonna show up with
Yeah,
their old man and make it like kind of like small town Ontario, right?
yeah. I was very, I was very fortunate to grow up, and my dad passed in 2014, and you know my dad had a huge impact. My dad never played the sport. Like, that was a funny thing. Never had anybody
Mine neither.
no, never had anybody go to college in my family. I was the first one to go to school when I went to school to Western Michigan in '92, and I mean, I learned so much from my dad through the process because my dad would come to games and he'd be very supportive, and he didn't know anything about the game. It was just about being there and being supportive and encouraging, and
And having fun, right? And
yeah, having fun and working hard. And my parent, I always had the philosophy. My parents always worked very hard to give me the opportunities that I had, and it's part of my responsibility to do the same in return when I stepped on the ice. And I carry those same philosophies as a coach. I've always done that. Is that, I mean, as a player, I was successful because I was willing to do other things that other players weren't willing to do. I mean, like, I wasn't mega talented. I had I worked hard. I had a good skill set, and my will was my separator. And I mean, I have that same philosophy as a coach, is that I want to put myself in a situation where, where I want Brent Walton to come and play in my program. I'm going to go above and beyond and show him that he's wanted and make him trust me, and just recruit and communicate with authenticity, like I would want somebody to do to me through the recruiting process.
yeah, no, yeah, and just being yourself. And the thing is that like you're a real hockey guy. You love the game. I I always knew that you always had a huge passion for it. I knew you'd always be in the game your whole life. And there's certain guys that yeah, they will do more than others, right, for the game
Sure,
to be a part of it. Um, like me waking up at 6 in the morning to talk to guys on a podcast, right?
sure.
Um, anyways, okay. How else do we know each other? Yep. You called me about Rio. I said no. Talked about getting recruited there, and then just Kalamazoo. You lived there. I got it down here. You were 4 years as a player and 9 years as a coach. Like, I think it's one of the most underrated cities or towns, whatever you want to call it, in the U.S. Like, it's a great spot, isn't it?
And it's changed so much since we were there too. Like, my daughter just graduated from Western.
Oh,
So we've
really?
been able to, yeah, so we've been able to spend a little bit of time there over the past 4 years. And the city's growing. The downtown area is just booming. I mean, it's a neat place. The thing that people miss about it is, not only is it, 3 hours from the border to Canada, you're 2 hours to Detroit, you're 2 hours to Chicago. Um, so much to do: water, lakes, golf courses, bars, every
And a
really.
great college town.
No, it's a great college town now. And the thing is that it's like I hadn't been back in a long time because I left there in '08, came back to Wisconsin. I went back in, I think I went back in 2015 when I was inducted into the Ring of Honor. I think it was 2015 was one of my first times back since I had left there. And, it was great to get back there, not only to see a lot of the alums and local people and some of the former players that I coached, and, meet the new coaches and stuff. But it was just neat to get back and see the community, and go to an old restaurant or go to the downtown and see Burdick's downtown where we used to go, and just different
Oh,
things.
the
It's always,
breadsticks with that were
you know,
filled with cheese. Do you remember the breadsticks filled with cheese?
yeah,
Oh
yeah, I
God,
do.
we'd be dipping
Yeah,
those in everything too.
and see them tearing down different dorms and building new dorms, and it's neat, and it was great to see a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Yeah, no, I actually, to be honest, with my hockey career and now when you finally do move back with kids and they're young and you're getting your life set up, I haven't been back since the day well, I guess Daryl Moore got married there. I was there for that
Okay.
weekend. And then other than that, I came to skate with you guys on my way to like an AHL camp or something
Sure,
after my
sure.
rookie year. And then I turned around and went to the airport to Germany. Those were the only 2 times I've been back since. And it's crazy. You spend every day, it feels like home for 4 years. And you think life's gonna be like that forever. You're gonna hang out with your buddies forever, and then it's just over and you never go
Yeah.
back, right?
You'll get back someday. You'll get back. Yeah, it'll be so much fun. It was great. The times I've been back, it's been great to be able to get back there and see the rink
It would be
and
great
just
to go back. I'd love to go back with the whole class and even the
yeah,
ones above, below,
yeah,
everybody I'm catching up with again.
yeah.
Okay, we better get into your career here. We're just chit-chatting about stuff, okay?
Sure.
Um, one thing I got here is where and what are you doing now?
So now I'm actually back in the year after we won the national championship at Stevens Point. We had actually played in 3 straight national championships at Stevens Point.
I did
We
have that
lost.
written down here is you lost 2 years
Yeah,
in a row and then you finally won it. Why don't we get into that roller coaster right now?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like I took over the program in 2011, 12, and I mean, we just went through transition. And I was just sort of building the core foundation of what kind of culture we were going to have, and went through some growing pains. That first year, we played in the conference championship, and it was men against boys, and I just stuck with it. I just stuck with my vision of
And
bringing
that's
in the
as a
right.
head coach now, though. So you're not going out for the recruiting as much as
Oh
you
no,
were.
no, at the Division 3 level, it's so different. Like I relied in pro hockey. In pro hockey, you deal so much with agents and networking through some a lot of college contacts. Well, now you get back and I never coached Division 3. Like I didn't even know what Division 3 was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no scholarships. You're just recruiting, convincing kids to come. And what I started to do was I started to use my college contacts that I had, and I would call them and I say, hey, just give me your leftover list. Take your top 5 kids and give me your leftover list of the next 20. And I touch base with 10, 15 Division 1 guys, and I gather lists, and I just start calling kids and just trying to network and try and find the right, not only the right players, but more importantly at that level, the right kids. So I just went through it, and I was honest through the process. My pro background in coaching pro for 3 years and playing and the contacts that I had there was a benefit to me because a lot of Division 3 kids want to try and play beyond college, and I was able to open a lot of. I was able to sell it through the recruiting process that I could open doors for kids, and I started to attract transfers. I started to attract good players. My experience at Division 3 level was different than most Division 3 coaches. I mean, because I had been a Division 1 coach for 9 years. I'd gone on. I coached pro as a head coach for 3 years, and not too many people, not too many coaches at that level had that experience.
Right. And how
So
how did just curious, like so you're in Rio. How do you end up getting the job there? Do you just apply for it?
yes, so it was crazy. It was when I went down to Rio Grande Valley, I I I'd actually turned down a job in Rio Grande Valley twice before when I was still at Western Michigan. And then the third time that they offered me the job,
And
I
who is
flew
it
down.
down there that really wants you? Why does the guy want you so bad? Like what'd you do to him?
They had just known me from there was a group of people that had stayed in that had got their teeth into that league that had known me from when I played pro. And
You were pretty good at
and
those couple of years.
yeah, so they had called and they said, listen, we see you're coaching at college, and they like my college background. And our kids, like Briar was young at that. Like she was only the times when I got offered the job. I think my daughter was 7 and my son was like 4. And I'm like, listen, I'm still at Western. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's not the right fit. I'm really not ready. I believe in what we're doing here. They came back to me the next year. They offered me a job, and then the third time they offered me the job, I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for a change. I'd been there almost 10 years, and I flew down there and they offered me a 4-year contract. And I was like, you know what, 4 years, go down there. It was an unbelievable experience for me. Like, coaching pro, dealing with different types of players, running the business, because you're running a multi-million dollar, you're responsible for everything.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot to it. There's a lot of
oh,
different facets
oh
to it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That side of it, it was phenomenal
And
for
you
me.
were recruiting the players because you called me.
I was doing everything. Yeah, I had a business guy that ran the business side, but on the hockey side, I did everything from apartments to travel to contracts to building the team, everything, all the paperwork.
Sounds just like the guys that take on the head coaching jobs in the UK, like that back when
Yeah,
I was there, like they were doing all that, and they were like the player coach. They were trying to
yeah.
do everything. Yeah,
So the actual experience to be able to learn and succeed and fail and make bad decisions, make good decisions. It was like growth wise for me, it was very good. Um, and then after my third year, I'll be 100% honest with you, Wally. My third year, my wife and I were sitting up one night, and she was like, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm done." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, "I'm just burnt out." I said, I worked hard. We've been competitive. We made the playoffs 2 years, been successful, but I said, I just feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle. And I said, let's just go do something else. And she's like, well, you got another year on your contract. We got two young kids. Like, we just can't,
just
we just,
not
yeah,
take them. Yeah,
yeah, we just can't.
that sounds like navigating lieutenant, Bayfield Brewing Company.
But so what I did was I actually said, let's just get out a map and let's find where we want to move, and we'll go figure it out. And the next day I got a phone call from a other college coach, and he said, hey, do you have any interest in coaching Division 3? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what Division 3 is.
Yeah,
I flew in on a I flew into Stevens Point on a Thursday. They offered me the job on a Friday. I accepted it, and I resigned the next day. And um,
and how many years do you sign for when you sign a university coaching deal?
at Division 3 level, you sign a 1 year, you sign a day-to-day contract. So yeah, so I got that job. We moved the family up from the border. Because when I signed the 4-year contract, it was 4 years and we were out anyhow, because I didn't want to
Live there
raise my
anymore.
I didn't want to raise my kids down there when they were,
I know
you
we're
know,
jumping all around, but that
yeah,
like I like to go with what's coming up at the time, and then
yeah,
it's what was it? What's it like? Because when I was around you as a guy, and I remember going to your house as a guy on the university team with a few other guys, and we'd come for dinner with your family, right? And Barrett and Briar were young, right? And they were, I think Barrett was like a baby, right?
mhm, mhm,
And then we'd come for dinner, and then now when I'm having young kids and like you look at a coach's lifestyle, like NCAA coaches have it way better than a lot of coaches for family life, right? And give
yeah.
finding a home. What was it like when you start once you leave Kalamazoo and now you're going elsewhere? Like you're taking them from Kalamazoo to Rio Grande.
Yeah, and the thing was, I was very fortunate because my wife never worked until we actually moved back to Stevens Point. So my wife was at home with the kids when I lived down in Rio Grande Valley. Um, and we looked at it. We actually looked at it a little bit different, where we looked at it where the kids were going to go down and get a life experience that they had never wouldn't get anywhere else. They went down there, they were a minority. Um, I mean, like the it was 92% Hispanic. So
Yeah.
for them to go down there and experience that was invaluable. Um, I don't regret that decision whatsoever. It was a great growth. We met some great people, a lot of really good friends. And like I said, I would have never achieved what I've achieved through my years at Stevens Point and through my years now at Michigan Tech. I would have never achieved that without the experience that I had down in Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
So I
And
never,
that's when you become a head coach too, right? And then
yeah,
and that's how you learn that part of it too, because it's different than being an assistant, right?
Oh yeah, and you learn through ups and you learn through downs, and I mean, you control. I mean, you're especially at that level because you really don't have an assistant. I mean, and that's a thing at Division 3 level. Your assistant coach is very limited, so you do a lot of that stuff on your own at Stevens Point, like at Division 3 level too. But
Um,
you know,
yeah, see, I don't know the Division 3 level.
yeah,
I don't know what that's like. But no, like it's yeah, yeah. I guess I'm not even sure where to go here because usually I go through a guy's career and we have bounced everywhere. I
yeah,
asked you where and what are you doing now? I was going to ask you like you were just out for dinner, okay? I'm going back on the rails here. We were way off the rails, okay? You were just out for a nice meal with your hockey team and university, and I started to get flashbacks of getting to go to nice restaurants with Western Michigan, and
yeah.
everywhere we went was nice, good food, and everybody could, or like it was a buffet or whatever, right? You're still living that life.
Yeah,
You look
I feel
trim
very
though. How does
yeah,
that work?
I feel very fortunate. I mean, be able to do what I've done for a long time and impact the people that I've been able to impact. And I've worked with a lot of real good people. I've worked for a lot of great athletic directors and, people that have been able to, I've always tried to put myself in situations where I feel that I can succeed. Yeah, I mean, I look back at the opportunities that I've been given. I went into a situation like we were talking about before. I went into a situation at Stevens Point. I had no idea. Like I had no clue. I had never been to Wisconsin. And we moved up. I left a pro contract where I had housing in my contract. I had a car in my contract. I had everything in my contract. And now I moved to Wisconsin, 20 hours away. I got to buy a house. I hadn't bought a car in 15 years. You know what I mean? So now I got to do all that stuff. And on top of it,
You have
I'm
two
taking
little
a
kids
60% pay cut.
with two little
You know what I mean?
kids.
Yeah, with two kids. So what I ended up doing was I started a hockey camp. I started a hockey camp business, and I just got, it was huge and it's downscaled through the years, but I've had that business for 11 years, and I started that there. My wife went to work. We had an unbelievable experience at Stevens
Did you
Point.
not make a DVD or a book or something? I
Yeah, we did.
transition or something.
Yeah, I had a company contact me and did I did a teaching DVD through Championship Productions. Um, but going back to my time at Stevens Point, so what happened was we actually the first our first year we played in the national championship, we played out east, out in Bridgeport, and Lake St. Norbert was so much better than us. We went
I've
out
heard of
there
that
and
one too. Yeah, Norbert. Yeah.
yeah, they were so much better than us. Like it was they beat us, I think 3-2 or 4-2, but
And that's the national championship game
yeah, that
though.
was
Like
in
you
a,
can still beat a team that's better than you in one game, but yeah,
yeah,
I understand.
but they were better than us. And
Yeah.
then the thing is, after that happens, like after you lose, and the funny thing was that was the year my dad passed, which was in 2014 too. So it was one of those things where like I really wanted to, that year really meant a lot. And when our team didn't win out there, it stung. And when you lose that, you really don't know if you're going to get back to that point again.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Especially when you've
So
been going through it for so many years and you're not close, right?
yeah, and then you're there, and then it's like, man, what if I never get to here again? And you start to have regrets, and I'm like, you know what? I always had the philosophy that that things happen for a reason, and I'm going to try and draw positives from that experience and try and learn from it.
Yep.
So I took like a week off, and then I went right back at it. And I went right back at it. And like I wasn't going to sit around and sob. And I went right back at it. And I started working. Well, then we play the next year. We go through the next year, and we actually play out in Minneapolis. So we're out out in the west, and we go in, and this was probably my best team, and this team didn't win either. This was probably better than my team that won. and we actually played out in Minneapolis, and we played against Trinity College, and we lost 3-2. So now you go through it twice,
Oh, oh,
and then you start thinking about it, and um, so we go into the third year, and all those kids that graduated that year, that was sort of my core because we were,
and they've lost 2 times in a row.
yeah.
Good gosh.
Well, now the thing is, now the next senior class, they played in 3 straight national championships the next year, and
They're
we actually
seasoned.
play in Lake Placid, New York. That's where we won it.
Wow. Is that that's on the poster, right?
Yeah, yeah, we won it in Lake Placid. So, yeah, it was very fortunate. We started the year 3-4, and we won our last 20. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. But the thing was, I had unbelievable leadership. Unreal group. The group ran themselves. We learned from our past experiences, and and then the year I left, the year that I left to take the job at Michigan Tech, the next year they went undefeated and won.
Yeah, I heard they're a powerhouse now, eh?
Yeah,
And that's when you get the snowball rolling, right?
yeah.
That's it's great. And then you made the decision to head out, but you know what? We haven't even talked about your playing career. You're pretty good at that too, eh? You know?
So I was fortunate. I got myself in a lot of really cool
You know
situations.
what? You've done a lot, and you're almost like you're a two-parter, maybe a three-parter with all your coaching and playing. But I want to know now, okay? And that's wild that you finally win it, because winning championships, like you win the whole thing. So, you know what's actually my real question is you win an NCAA national championship. There's way more rules in NCAA. Like I don't remember ever having a beer on the road or doing anything like when I played for you at Western. Um, when you win a national championship and you're in Lake Placid, like do you like the kids have to like go somewhere that you don't know about or something, right? Like what the heck?
No,
They don't drink apple juice and go to bed, do they?
so what happened was, so the 2 years prior, we were playing out east. Going back to year one. So what happened was, I went to my athletic director after year before the national championship game, year one, and I said, listen, I said, because the thing is, at the NCAA level, you actually charter planes. So I said, listen, this is the deal. I said, I want to set this up for our plane to leave at midnight, because I didn't want to get stuck with my team after winning a national championship on the road.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to be responsible for that. So I went to my athletic director and I said, listen, I said, I want to get this plane. I want to have this plane ready to go at midnight. And he said, listen, we can't. The plane's going somewhere else to take a basketball team. And I'm like, listen, I said, if we win, like it's going to be very difficult for me
Control them.
to control this setting. So I had a whole plan. I rented a bar area. I gave the guys like a 3-hour time limit, and then everything was great. Win or lose, I had an agreement. And with my group, they were very good. The next year it wasn't a big issue because we were in Minneapolis, so we were going to come home regardless. We're 3-hour drive. But the year that we won it, I had actually gone to my AD before, and my AD agreed with me, and I actually threw the whole entire team. So what happened was, the team flew out, and what I did was I sent a bus. I sent a bus out with my staff. So I sent like my assistant coach, my equipment manager, my radio guys,
Yeah.
my kids. I threw them all onto a bus, and they took off, and they drove like, I don't know. I think it was like 20 hours on the bus out. The team flew out on the charter. I flew out on the charter with them. And then what happened was our vice chancellor flew out for the game. And after we won it, I loaded the vice chancellor and the team on the charter plane, and they flew home. And I hopped on the bus with my entire staff, and we
Who
drove home for 20 hours.
what's a vice chancellor?
It's like the assistant to the president.
of the school,
of the school. Yeah. Yeah.
and they got on a charter and flew home back
Yep.
to university and just won the national championship.
Yep, they flew home with the team, and then like a bunch of fans were waiting for them at the airport. Like we have a little private airport, landed right in town. I'm sure they went downtown. The neat thing about it was that my staff and I were able to get on the bus, and we enjoyed it for 20 hours. Like we enjoyed it from
Oh
Saturday at
yeah.
midnight. I think we actually pulled in the parking lot in Stevens Point at like 6 o'clock at night on Sunday. And the entire team was sitting in the parking lot waiting for us in lawn chairs. And
Oh man.
then we were able to go downstairs and sit in the locker room, and it was nice and controlled, and everybody had a great time. And then, then we just had celebration upon celebration after that.
Oh
Um,
man, that sounds like so much fun.
yeah.
Winning is so much fun. And like obviously yourself, myself, everybody that played at Western while we were there, like we all wish we would have won. It sucks, but like winning is so much more fun than losing, isn't it?
And the neat
It's like
thing
the
is,
exact opposite.
I know, and the thing was, my 2 years later, I accepted this job up at Michigan Tech, and we won a conference championship, and then went and played in the national tournament.
with,
Within two
with
years later,
Michigan Tech.
yeah, Michigan Tech, yeah, we actually lost to Notre Dame to go to the Final Four out east.
Is that
So
right? Where's
yeah,
Michigan Tech? I didn't think you guys were good.
it's in Houghton, Michigan. Yep,
Houghton?
yeah, Houghton, yeah, up in the upper
The
peninsula of the UP.
UP?
Yeah,
So you're not on the hand anymore. Like,
no,
when we would go to Michigan and you go
yeah,
to the bar, they'd be like, "So where are you from?" And they put the
yeah,
hand up, and I'm like, "I'm from Canada, right?" Do you
yeah,
remember that at
oh
Kalamazoo?
yeah,
Every time you go there, they say, "Where are you from?" And they show you the hand.
yeah. Yeah, well, we're about 9 hours north of Detroit.
9 hours. So you're so why are you by northern Michigan?
We're we're about 2 hours further up than northern.
Holy moly! So it's
Yeah.
cold as
Well, it's really not cold. We get a lot of snow, but it's a really cool community. It's a huge hockey town. Support everything our players need. You know what I mean? We have an unbelievable facility. We have unbelievable support through the community. We have unreal support within the athletic department, unreal athletic director.
how big's the school?
It's only about 9,000 students, but it's right on the water. A beautiful setting. It's a big tourist attraction, summer and winter. It's a big tourist attraction for snowmobilers in the winter, and then it's a big boating. We have ski hills, golf courses.
Sounds all
It's
right.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a really neat community. So we've been fortunate. This is my fifth year here. Um, and you know, we're on the right path. We've been very successful and very excited about the season.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I didn't know about Michigan Tech. I know
Yeah.
Bryce Reddick, who was supposed to come on the pod last week. He played there, but
Okay.
before that time. But anyways, okay. We haven't got into your hockey playing career quickly here. So you grew up in Stratford.
Sure.
We've only talked about coaching. So um, you grew up in Stratford and you would have played in the William Allman. That rink comes up a lot here because it's one of the best rinks in Canada and the world, really, maybe, right?
Yeah, it is. It sure is. I got a lot of unbelievable memories of a kid growing up there. I was very fortunate. It was very rare for kids to grow up in that area and play in Stratford. Um, we had so many kids from out of town and imports and
Because that's
yeah,
Colleton's team was so good, right? They'd bring in people from the States, from everywhere, right?
yeah, growing up just watching, and we had some good local players too, but a lot of guys that went on to be NHL greats with Nelson Emerson and Rob Blake and Brian Smolinski. Like you look back and being able to see those players play every Friday and Saturday night in that packed rink. It's kind of neat because that rink hasn't changed a bit.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey,
You know what I
I
mean?
haven't been there in a while.
Oh yeah, it's I have to go in every time I get go home. It's just one of those stops that you have to make,
Yeah, for sure. Well, like the Elmira rink I grew up going to is not even there anymore.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
they got the new one.
yeah, just so many memories being able to, you know what I mean, see, you know what I mean, see so many greats and just dream of always being in that same situation. And then
So then
like, when
you became a Colleton. You almost win it, hey? Is what happened.
yeah,
And like, so how do you get recruited to Western Michigan back then? Because like it had to have been different because when I got recruited to Western Michigan, when you recruited me, it was like pamphlets and like you showed up at my games and talked to my parents and like
yeah,
it was phone calls to the house phone. Like it
yeah.
must have changed so much. What was it
Well,
like when you got recruited? How did they find you?
well, you know, to be honest with you, what happened was my first year in Stratford, I was actually told that I was going to be a 13th forward and um, that I could practice with the team. And I was like, you know what? I maxed out my major mid. I played 2 years of major midget, so I was maxed out. And
Oh,
I
so
was like, you know
you
what?
went to school late?
Yeah, I went to school as a 20-year-old. Yeah. And what had happened was they came to me and said, listen, you know, you're going to be a 13th forward. We want you to come here. We want you to practice. We want you to continue to get better. And I said, great, I'm in. And what happened was like 2 weeks into the season, we had one of our veteran players that decided that he wasn't going to play anymore. And I ended up I ended up third in the league in scoring and scored 97 points.
Yeah.
And that was my first year. You know, and the thing was like we had, you know, you look at those some of the players that I played with there. The big thing the big thing that happened with me was if Chris Pronger didn't play in Stratford, I would have never ever got the exposure that I got. Just being 100% honest with you,
So
because it
that's
wasn't
how Western Michigan finds you is because they're coming to watch Chris Pronger,
well. So what happened was
or people start talking because they're coming to watch Chris Pronger, and then they're like, "Well, Chris Pronger's good, but you got to see this little bugger
yeah.
skating around that's 19, 20 years old."
Yes. Yeah. So that's what happened was, you know, you get all these college guys, you get all these NHL guys, you get all these major junior guys, because at that time, Pronger hadn't committed to go either way. So everybody was chasing him. Like I remember going to games and playing in games in Stratford where there's more scouts than fans. And what ended up happening was,
Well, he was 6'6" and
oh yeah,
blonde, right? Six
yeah,
foot six and blonde.
and we had like we had some other kids too. We had another kid, Mike Watt, who was a, you know, ended up going to Michigan State, but he was another one of those borderline kids. He wasn't sure whether he was going to play major junior or go to college. Ended up being
And
NHL
everybody
drafted,
starts coming to the games.
and they start talking. So what happens is they start talking, then they get to other games and they start networking and talking. And what ended up happening was Mike Schaefer, who recruited me at Western Michigan, who's now the head coach at Cornell. He ran into a major junior scout, and this major junior scout said, "Listen, you got to get into Stratford to see this kid play." And Shafe came in and offered me a scholarship. And once Western offered me a scholarship, I had like 15 offers within 2 weeks.
Because you're
And
that because the you know what, it's just weird for me with this whole hockey spider web and everything is like if any of that doesn't happen is I'm not going to Western Michigan and then I'm not meeting my wife and I don't
yeah,
have the kids I have because you were the one that recruited me. You were the one that wanted me. You were the one that came to all my games and were like, we're taking this kid. Right?
sure,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
very interesting to hear like how you go there because like I was wondering like out of Stratford how you get to Western Michigan back then because even out of Elmira like you
sure,
showing up like there was just random schools show up, right? But
yeah. Yeah, that's what happened was, and then they ended up taking a couple more kids from that area that ended up being teammates of mine, but it was just word of mouth. And then you know, once I went through the process and I visited, you know, 4 or 5 schools, I felt very strongly about my opportunity at Western. I felt that was going to be given an opportunity to go in there and be an impact player. And if I was given that opportunity, I was confident in my abilities that I was going to take advantage of it. And, they were honest with me through the recruiting process. They wanted me, and I learned so much. I learned so much through the coaches that I've had and the coaches that I've worked for, and like so much good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, good and bad from those coaches that I've been able to try to integrate into myself to, make myself the best coach or person or parent that I can possibly be.
Well, and that's the same thing I tried to do is like all the different places I've lived,
Sure.
all the different teams I was on, all the different coaches I've had, all the different teammates, and then now like it's the different jobs is like you're always trying to get better, right? At
Yeah.
whatever you're doing. I'm trying to be a better podcaster every time, but whether that happens, I don't know. Because all I'm doing is talking and drinking beers. um, anyways, I think it's really cool that that's how that all happened, and I could just see the Allman rocking with Chris Pronger out there as a young buck, and you just wheeling around, trying harder than everybody, and just burying goals everywhere, saying, "You cannot ignore me. I'm too good. Fuck off. You're taking me."
we and the thing is, what we had this, we
Am
had
I
some great.
wrong?
Well, we had some very good players on that team. Like we had Rem Murray, we had Mike Watt, Jason Mervin scored 80 goals that year.
80
Like,
goals?
oh yeah,
That can't be a real thing. I scored 57. 80 can't be a real thing.
oh
Woolen
yeah,
chop, brown ale.
yeah. He did. He did.
80?
Oh
80.
yeah. I think he ended up with 79 goals that year, Wally. Yeah,
Okay. Well, it's a lot more than
yeah,
I had. Okay.
yeah.
Um,
Great guy, great player. Greg DeVries with another NHLer on that team, like Jamie
yeah.
Hartnett. Like I was very fortunate to play with some great players.
It's weird that that league isn't the same as it used to be. It's not recognized the way it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. And the tiering of junior hockey in Ontario has changed the landscape of that a little bit. There's still some good players up there. Like, I mean, I've
Do you
seen
come up
I've
here
seen,
at all?
I pop up there a little bit. I pop in and out a little bit my first couple years at Michigan Tech. With COVID, the last few years we've been
A lot of
very
video.
limited. Yeah, we've been very limited. But like when I have I'll still have people up there that I know that'll reach out to me on certain kids. Like Vinny Bellissimo reached out to me last week. I
Well,
have
and
some
that's how
people
the
that'll know.
hockey world works, right? Is like
Yeah,
if you're a coach and you have a kid that listens, he
yeah,
wants it, he gives her, you're gonna
yeah.
call people and be like, "This, come look at this," right?
Well, you rather deal with coaches than you deal with agents.
Well, yeah, no shit. Yeah, that's why you're in NCAA all this time, right? uh, okay. I want to know about your Western Michigan time though, is because you said you could go there and be an impact player, and you showed up and were the rookie of the year in the CCHA, and they don't like to give that to 21-year-olds, I don't think.
No, well, you know what? It was like I said, it was just one of those opportunities that where I went in and worked hard right off the bat. Um, and I played in
But
a
it's
lot of
not
tournaments.
about just working hard. It's that like you were in Stratford and nobody really had noticed you, and you're a late bloomer, like some of us are. But it's weird for me, those small town areas, like where I'm living now, Kincardine, Stratford, like all this area, this Grey Bruce,
Mhm.
Huron, Perth, all these kids around here, like there's some players around here and they're not going to get noticed because you're not in those big tournaments in Toronto that get more people talking about you, right? Like it's only us locals around here talking about the kids around here
Sure, and that's why a lot of those top kids leave and they go to BC or they go up to Toronto. You know what I mean?
because they want to get noticed.
Or they come to the States. There's kids coming to the States now to play. Um, like
Yeah, that
there's a very good
USHL is quite the thing now, isn't it?
yeah, there's a very good player. I was just at the showcase last week. There's a very good player that I actually grew up with his dad. He's committed to RPI. Hodson kid. He played in Listowel. Very good player.
Watch
Plays
those
in
hands back off.
played in Muskegon now. He plays in Muskegon in the USHL. Very very good player. But I grew up with his dad, John.
And he's from Listowel.
No, he's from Stratford, but he played in Listowel, and then I think he went up to an academy up in Ottawa. Played a year up there, and now he's in Muskegon. He's committed to RPI.
It's isn't it interesting? Like this is what the podcast is so interesting is that everybody's journeys, like nobody has the same thing, man.
No,
Everybody's doing a different thing. And fun fact is my kid was in Stratford a couple weeks ago for AAA tryout. Yeah. I
nice.
just
How'd
went
that
to
go?
Stratford. Yeah, no, he made the team after 2 tryouts, and then I told him like it wasn't the year or whatever. Like I'm not driving that far, but yeah, no, it went well. But yeah,
Who's coaching the team?
um, it was a Steve.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd know him, but anyways, I don't think he was from Stratford. That's for sure.
Okay.
It was Huron Perth Lakers, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
they're from all over. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
moving on. Um, you were at Western Michigan way before me. Who was your coach?
Well, I played for Bill Wilkinson, and Bill's two assistants were Mike Schaefer and Jim Colhane. And then when I think Schaefer left in '96,
And he's the guy that
95,
goes to
95.
Cornell then.
Yeah, Schaefer got hired at Cornell, and then Jim stayed, and Jim brought in a couple more coaches for my last 2 years there, and then um, after I graduated, I think 3 years after I graduated, I played 3 years of pro, and then
You keep trying to
Jim
go
got
back
hired
to your
again.
coaching career. I don't want to know about your coaching career. I want to know about your playing career right now.
Well, I played for Bill Wilkinson, and then Mike Schaefer. I played with for Jim Colhane, and then Chris
Okay.
Wells and Bill Watson were both assistants.
Wow, you got a good memory. Um, your first year, did you know that you led the team by 11 points as a freshman?
Mm, I didn't.
Well,
I did.
you led the team in scoring by 11 points as a freshman. That's pretty rare. You must have been you must have been walking around campus with a pretty you had the chest out, eh?
Oh my gosh.
Was the cafeteria the same as when I went? Was like,
It was
were
very.
you cruising around the Burnham cafeteria like, check me
I,
out? I am
I
leading the
what?
team in scoring and I'm a freshie.
You know what? The funny thing was, my freshman year was so good, I decided to stay at the Burnhams the next year.
And that's why you made us do it.
I stayed 2 years just for that reason.
That's why you made us do it, isn't it?
Uh,
Yeah. Well, we if we would have done 3 years of the U Club, that thing would have gone up in flames. So,
uh,
anyways, yeah, we had a good time at school too. So that's what I was curious about your actual playing career. One guy you did play with all 4 years I saw was Jamal Mayers, right?
yeah, yeah. Jamal and I came in together, and he was like so further ahead than everybody else. Like, I'd never when I went to Western Michigan, I never lifted a weight. Like, I'd never trained. I was a golfer, and I played baseball and slow pitch, and
You were
everything.
from, yeah,
Yeah, I was
Ontario
from
around here.
I
You
was
were
from
from the rural Ontario area.
Yeah, and then these Toronto kids would come in, and they would be like on these diets, and they'd have personal trainers, and they'd have this program. Well, I had no idea, and I remember showing up for school, and my mom and dad come in the locker room, and Coach Wilkinson brings us in the locker room, and at that time we actually had a weight room in the locker room, like just off the locker room. And Coach Wilkinson brings us in, and Jamal's in the weight room, and he's squatting like 450. I didn't know what a squat was.
Me neither
And
when I went there.
yeah, and he's got like he's got all this weight on his back, and I look at my dad. And at that point I didn't even know who Jamal was.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know if he was a player or a football player or a hockey. I had no clue. And Coach Wilkinson takes me over, and he goes, "Hey, I want you to meet Jamal Maris. He's a freshman with you. And I looked at my dad and I was like, oh my God, am I in trouble? So he ended up being a great teammate. He was um, such a good player. Went on to have a phenomenal career, and we still touch base. I had my son a few years ago when Jamal was in Chicago doing some television. We were able to say hi to him, and I see him at different functions and stuff. So
Yeah,
keep in touch.
it's interesting though, because you were like the top. It's kind of like the same for me, right? You see some buddies make the NHL, but like every year you were in school, like you were the top scorer, right? Like it's an interesting thing, right? Because there's different
Yeah,
roles in pro hockey, and I
yeah,
remember the day. It was in junior B. I played with Matt Molson and I are
yeah,
going for the scoring title,
yeah,
and I remember my coach saying about him is he's going to be a good pro. And
yeah,
I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, he's
yeah,
either better than me or he's not better than me. He goes, no, he's going to be a good pro. And I'm
yeah,
like, and it's a real thing.
yeah. It is. Well, it is. It's ironic. Last week I ran into Todd Harvey out at he's scouting with the Vancouver Canucks. I ran into him out in Pittsburgh, and I grew up playing against Todd Harvey. He ended up having a great pro career. Scott Walker's another guy I grew up playing with. Ended up having a great. Those guys play in the NHL. You know what I mean, and
Yeah.
we had wars with those kids growing up through youth hockey, and then through junior hockey, and it was really neat being able to walk into a rink in Pittsburgh at the USHL showcase and
And seeing a
introducing
familiar
myself to.
face. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I knew who he was. He didn't know who I was, until I told him who I was, and then it clicked in exactly who I was because we had a lot of wars back then, and I congratulate him on his great career and his new position, and it was kind of a neat thing just to be able to run in and reminisce with somebody that you didn't really have a personal relationship with, but that you went through the wall with
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Well, sometimes like now, actually, now that we're talking, I'll say this, you can take it for what you want, but how good you were at being a player. Um, I think there was still a lot of years ahead of you when you decided to be an assistant coach at Western. Um, I think like my years of playing taught me a lot, just like the coaching years taught you a lot.
Yeah,
Um, I think that you could have played a lot longer and then got into the coaching later, right? And like you still would have learned all the same things, but you would have got it all out of your system, right?
yeah.
Because like you went back and played for the Kalamazoo K-Wings when I was playing for you. I went and watched you play in the U-Haul.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
That's like 4 years after you're retired. You got little kids. You're a full-time college coach, and you're like, I have not scratched this itch.
Well, it was kind of funny. So, we can talk about two things here. Uh, when I left Western Michigan, I knew I wanted to be a coach, and when I got the phone call after my third year of pro, I had just scored 50 goals, and I had another year on my contract making big money, and I got hired at Western
In
Michigan
the
at that
Whipple?
time. And oh yeah, we had back then you had what you called a franchise player. So the player didn't count on the cap. So I actually signed an American League deal in the Whipple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I signed a 2-year American League deal in the WPHL because I had an American League one-way contract done to go play in the American League. And
Okay.
they signed me to a two-year contract in Amarillo, and I only played 1 year on that contract when I got hired at
And it's because
Western.
you had the offer to go to.
Yep, that's why I left. I had another year on my contract, and
And you just knew you wanted to be a coach. Like you knew deep down you wanted to be a coach because you're walking away from that at that age.
you know,
Seems strange.
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean. But it was also an opportunity to
But
go to
it's the
my
time
own.
you can get in, right? Because by the
Yeah,
time I leave hockey,
yeah,
Western Michigan has all new coaches. Nobody even knows who I am. I
yeah.
had to pay for my last class. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm serious. I paid for my last class. It was like $1,200, man.
Yeah, that doesn't happen much anymore. But when I got hired, I have no regrets of it. You know what I mean? Like, I always think about a lot of people ask me that same question that you just asked me.
What
You know
I
what I
ask
mean?
you? I can't even remember
What
anymore.
well, you asked me why I would get out why I would get out when I did and why I didn't keep playing and
Yeah,
yeah,
everybody's different, man. But what was your decision? How,
well,
how
my
did how
decision.
how did you go down with it?
Well, Janine was 8 months pregnant with Briar, and we knew we wanted to get back to the Midwest, and I knew I wanted to coach, and I really, I had a good relationship with Jim Culhane. I trusted him. I felt wanted. I knew that I was going to be given a great opportunity there to go ahead and make an impact in the program. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any regrets in doing that. I mean, I felt good about that. And I mean, when you stay in it for 22 years, I really don't think it was the wrong decision.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, people do ask, I mean, as the game changed, could I have given my chance to play at a higher level? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know, but I don't look at it that way. I look at
But
it
even
more on,
like the thing is when you look back on playing careers, like yeah, you could have played another 5 years, right?
yeah,
But then
yeah,
that coaching job
yeah,
isn't there anymore, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden you're back in Stratford or doing something different that you don't want to be doing. You're not a head coach or you're not a coach because you're not given that opportunity anymore, right?
Well, it's validated when you actually win a national championship. Everything that you've done before that is validated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because now you look back and you're like, well, if I didn't experience that my first year as a coach, if I didn't do this and I didn't draw from that, well, once you win, that's the one thing about winning is it validates every decision you made up to that point because now you can't take it away from you.
No, and
You know what I mean?
it's I winning is everything, and no, and that's I guess how I started a podcast, right? Like, yeah, like the 4 years at Western, we had some good teams. We came close to doing well our first couple of years. Then we had some tough times, but like when I won on other teams, right? Like in different countries, and like you have that relationship with people in the city, the town, the players on the team. Like you can call anybody and they're there for
Mhm.
you, right? Like those people in that town will be there for you at any point, right?
Yeah, yeah. The town was great to us. Our kids have so many great memories, and um, yeah, it was when you win, it cures a lot of problems. I mean,
Yeah.
well, go
Uh,
back with my Kalamazoo my Kalamazoo wing after 4 years. I'll tell you a little bit about that story. But I was actually on the road. I was actually on the road recruiting, and my cell phone rang, and it was an old friend of mine that had he'd been involved with Worcester in the American Hockey League. He was GM in Worcester, and then he'd taken over the Kalamazoo Wings, and he had seen me play in the American League the year before, my second year of pro in Springfield. And he called me and he said, "Listen," he goes, I'm the GM of Kalamazoo, as you know." He goes, "We've had some injuries. I see that there's a good chance that you guys aren't going to make the playoffs this year, and at Western, would you be interested in coming to join the team?" And I'm like, "Paul," I said, like, "I got a job." I said, "I got a young family." I said, like, I, I, "I'm on the road recruiting. I got a lot of stuff to do. I got a lot of responsibilities. We got to build a team for next year." He goes, let me call Jim. And I'm like, "Paul, I haven't skated in gear in 4 years." Like I said, like, I can't.
You were really fast in sweatpants with our team. Yeah, I remember.
I said, but like the other side of it is that I also just didn't want to go in and you know have a negative impact on their team either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he calls Jim, and Jim calls me, and he's like, "Hey, Chris, Paul Picard just called me. Um, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Jim," I said, like, I got a lot of recruiting to do over the next few months. Like I said, I'm not even really considering this. He goes, oh, I think it would be great. I said, well, let me talk to my wife. So come home. I come home from my recruiting trip. I talked to my wife and I'm like, listen, I'll give it a shot. So I go out and uh, the problem is I can't practice. Like their practice times are during our practice times. So like we're still playing.
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to skate, I'm trying to train, I'm trying to run, I'm trying to lift, I'm trying to do everything. And but the thing is, I'm going recruiting, so I'm on the road recruiting. I'm watching games. I'm in the gym at the hotel. I'm running. I would come home on a Sunday afternoon. I'd land at 2 o'clock, and I'd play a 4 o'clock game in Kalamazoo, like the Sunday afternoon games. I go on the road for another 2 weeks recruiting. I come back. I play an afternoon game. The funny thing was
And
like
they
my
just
first.
mix you in whenever you're around, right?
Well, they would yeah. They whenever I was available, I would play, but I never practiced. So like I would just and the thing was, I said listen, I said like just ease me into this. Well, the first night I bet you I played 25 minutes, and I'm gassed. And then there's some other there's some other older pros on these other teams that had known who I was, and they had played against me before when I played pro. And we got come up to a face off and they're like, what are you doing? Because they knew
Yeah.
I was coaching. And then, so I ended up playing 11 games. I made a road trip with them after our season was over. We went out, I went on an Eastern road trip. I played a game in Flint, and then I went out to the East Coast. I took a bus trip
It would have been
from,
kind of fun though, right? With like the two little kids and being a coach,
yeah,
and then you weren't playing anymore, but like to actually get on a road trip and be one of the boys again, right?
yeah, it was what it was. We ended up painting our entire house in Kalamazoo with the money that I made, and we hired a painter to come in and painted the whole interior of the house for us. So it wasn't really about the money. It was just, I mean,
Yeah.
it and the fun. Come the end of it, it was very tough for me to get back into the routine off the start because I had no rhythm. I go 2 weeks and then I'd play a game and then I'd go on the road for a week. I come back, play 2 games. Once I started getting into it, and like my last 4 or 5 games, once our season was over, I was able to play and stay with the team and practice. I started to get going a little bit again,
Yeah.
but
So so fun fact is I went and watched you play, right, in the
yeah,
Kalamazoo
yeah,
arena. That would
yeah.
have been my freshman year. That was like with Rosie and Coos and all the boys. We came and watched you. We watched our coach play a pro hockey game when we were in at Western
Uh,
Michigan.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I
it
would have
was it
been,
was
I would
fun.
have been, I would have been 30, probably 31, maybe
Yeah,
31.
yeah, and you had your little kids and your you
Yeah,
would have been busy, eh? And they're trying, and I remember you saying to me like, "Well, this is my like old timers. This is
yeah,
about the speed."
yeah.
Because you're
That was it.
31 and you can still play. Yeah, that's about where you were at.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing we never talked about though is like your son Barrett, he played, right?
Yeah, my son Barrett plays in Madison in the USHL right now. He's actually been committed to Western for 4 years.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I was going to
Yeah.
bring that up. So when I did my research and I hit Barrett, it says like he's going to Western, and then I clicked on that, and like so like where like when is that happening? What's happening there?
So he's my son committed to Western and when he played U16, and then he played his
U
17-year-old.
sixteen, U
Yeah,
16. He committed U
yeah,
16. That
yeah,
means he's 15,
yeah,
if my math is right.
yeah. So he played he played his 12th grade year in Austin in the North American League, and then last year he was supposed to play in Madison in the USHL, but Madison they were shut down due to COVID. They had some local restrictions, so they went dormant for a year. So he went back and played last year in Austin, and now he's playing in Madison this year.
And they're
And then
going.
he'll go into Western next year.
At
Yeah, and
what
my
age?
dad,
Is that a
he's
true freshman or a year
yeah, he'll
after?
go. No, he'll go in as he turns 20 in December.
So I don't remember. What's a true freshman? How old are you?
True freshman would be 18, turning 19.
And he'll
So
be, so yeah, so
yeah,
he's a couple past that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like
So
we would, just like I was and you were. Yeah, I was
yeah,
one past, I think.
yeah. So he's a late 01, so he'll play this year in the USHL, and then he'll go into Western next year. And our daughter just graduated from Western, and she's actually at dental school at Arizona.
Oh, cool. Where
Yeah,
in Arizona?
in Tempe.
Huh.
Yeah, so she's in her first year of dental school. She graduated with a degree in biomedical science at Western.
Jiminy Crickets.
Yep, and then my son's gonna actually study engineering.
Oh, and what kind of engineering?
He's not sure. He's actually, I think he's thinking construction.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's keep thinking construction. He'd like to do something. Ultimately, he'd like to do something with architecture, but I think the construction engineering is probably the closest thing to do at Western. So he's been taking some classes here the last couple of years playing junior hockey to get ready for that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's school's an important thing, right? And you
yeah,
said like out of your family, you were the first one to go get education,
yeah,
eh?
yeah,
And you've
yeah.
been working for schools ever since?
I have, I have.
And they pay for great meals at all these different restaurants and
They do.
hotels, right?
It's 10 times what it was when you played, Wally.
Really?
Yeah,
Like the food is?
everything.
You saw our bodies back at those days, right? Like we were trying our best, but like those were good meals. And like it was always a buffet every time, every hotel.
Yeah,
Chicken,
everything's
pasta,
e- everything's just different. It's the big thing is when I
things
took the
keep
job
getting
here.
better.
Yeah, when I took the job here at Michigan Tech, the big thing was that I wanted to make sure I was getting myself in a situation where I had all the resources that I needed to be successful, just like I did as a player. And for me, we have everything that you need. So, the facilities, the resources, the staff, the community, the commitment,
The town,
like,
it sounds like.
oh yeah, now the thing is now these kids stay year round too. Like we pay for them to stay year round.
And they
So that
have to?
no, well, what happens is a lot of kids stay at the end of the season, and so what schools have track A and track B. So instead of having a 4 month summer, they usually stay like 2 months to start the summer and then go home for 2 months.
I was gonna say kids need to go home, right?
Well, they do. The thing is, a lot of these kids, they can skate. They have strength. They have their strength coach here. Like it's become a 12-month sport. So they train a lot. And then we have a golf course here. A lot of these kids have 12-month leases anyhow, so they're already tied in that lease too. So um, yeah, it's changed. Then the thing is that we pay for them to take a class also. So they go to school, they take a class, they get yeah,
They
it's
live
crazy.
life. They're living. Like those kids are living. I remember those days.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey, do you remember
yeah,
them?
yeah,
Like you get to see them doing it still, right? Like I couldn't even imagine seeing a bunch of kids walk into the hotel and all get their rooms and be joking around and thinking they're so funny. And I just couldn't even imagine. Like it must still keep you young and yeah, it must be so fun.
yeah. I feel very fortunate. Like I said before, I've been in some great situations, worked with some great people, and just being able to impact and see players that I coach go on and be successful is part of the reason why I think I've done this for so long.
Well, it doesn't seem like you're gonna stop anytime soon, and it seems like you're
No.
doing a pretty good job when, you put stuff up and you got guys reaching out saying like what you've done for them. Like, You changed my life for sure, finding me out of Elmira, you know. My life wouldn't be what it was without you finding me and bringing me and all my boys to Western Michigan, right?
Nope.
But you do that every year. You bring you're recruiting guys like so my best friends in my life is like my roommates from Western Michigan, and you're doing that for people every year, and you get to recruit them, and you get to kind of try and figure out who's what type of person and who's going to gel and what position they are, and like you got to travel all over the place to do that, eh?
Yeah, we do. Like today we were on a Zoom call with a kid from Finland. We're on our way over to Finland. We got two Swedes. We do all of Canada. We do Alberta. I'm on my way to BC in a couple weeks. We cover all of the US. We do
Swedes and
six.
Finns want to play
Oh, yeah.
because they can get paid already over there, right?
Yeah, a lot of them can. I mean, like there's a lot of this being done through agents, but there's a large number of European players that are playing the USHL right now. Russians, Finns, Swedes. I went over a couple years ago and found a older Swede, really good player for us, big 6'6" centerman. We took another one last year. I mean, got some ties and some
And they want to
networks.
come over for the school or the life experience
No, I think they want to come over for different reasons. I think,
because you don't get
you know,
paid, right? Or I guess you do now. Can you
well,
how does that work?
no, like these kids, like for them to come over to school, their scholarships about 50, 55 grand a year. I mean, their food's paid for, their
Their
equipment's
life is,
paid for.
yeah.
I mean, they're coming over here, getting an education. I mean, if they want to go back and play pro after that, they can. Um, I think they look at it developmental wise to be able to play in the NCAA and I mean, get that education. I mean, even though a lot of their friends are staying over in Europe and playing pro, they can always go back there and do that.
So what you're
Um,
saying is you're not coming to the Midwest Ontario as often, eh? You're going to Finland and Sweden now?
well, not with our location. Like if I get a lead on a player, I've had people call me before on players, contacts that I know, people that I know. I'll fly into Detroit. I'll take a 5 or 6 day road trip and pop up and see 5 or 6 kids play that are recommended to me. Whether it's through contacts or advisors or people that I know. There's still people up there that I know that now have kids coming through or whatever.
And so what, yeah, and that's that'll happen
Yeah,
at my age group, right?
yeah,
Like I'm gonna know which kids are the best.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's coming. I know that's
yeah,
coming.
yeah,
But the thing is like how do you schedule that? Like you're coming in for a weekend, you got to figure out where all these kids play. And so
yeah.
what age should I actually make my like what age do you actually have to start getting noticed? Because I don't feel like my kid needs to start getting noticed for a few years yet.
Yeah. So right now we're starting to track 2005 borns. So
2005.
yeah,
2005.
yeah, yeah. So we're starting to track. We've spent a lot of time in
How old
September.
is that? 16, 15. That
16.
right. That's like when they're deciding OHL or NCAA, right?
Yeah,
That's when you gotta be active.
yeah. So we're starting to track a lot of those kids because a lot of those kids have been drafted in the USHL.
Hazy
So
sunset. Not much longer, folks.
so so what happens is a lot of it's based on. See, USA Hockey in the United States runs a couple festivals each summer. So this year was a 2004 and 2005s where they bring together all the top 2004 and top 2005s in the country for a 5 day showcase.
Right, and that's what's interesting to me, right? Is like who decides who those best kids are? Is it like the parents that paid the most?
No, so what they do is so regionally what'll happen is regionally in the US they'll have they'll have weekends, tryout weekends regionally. And what they usually do, traditionally, the ones that I've been involved with is they bring in local college or junior or higher level coaches or people with experience and have them come in and try and rate the top kids from that region. So what ends up happening is they're able to send 15 kids from region A and 15 kids from region B and 15 kids from region C. They're able to send X number of kids from that area.
So it's just an all-star game of the best kids around, but you get to fly in, see them all at the same time. It's kind of like the under 17 camp in
Yep.
Ontario to try and make
Yep.
Ontario.
Yeah, but what they'll have is they'll have. I'm not sure. Like it's been a long time since I took part in that in Ontario, but like they run this in Buffalo, New York, and there's probably I would probably say maybe 250 kids at this camp. I would probably say around that. So for us to be able to go in and see probably the top 200 kids in the country in that age group is pretty good. The other thing that's different in the U.S. is now they have the U.S. National Development Program, which has the top 25 kids already in that out of that age group already there, and most of those kids are already committed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now we're trying to target that next group of top kids out of that 2005 group.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Is
it's
what
just interesting because I'm like a young up and coming minor hockey dad, right? And it's like all these people are trying to get their kids to AAA at this year or that year. And it's like I'm
Yeah,
like I'm in a small town, right? Like we grew up in, right? Like
yeah,
I'm not even in Stratford where the AAA is right there now. Like I'm in Kincardine and it's an hour and a half for a AAA thing. And like, yes, my kid can skate and he can shoot and he's pretty good. But it's like, um, when do I have to like really pony up, you know?
yeah. You know what? Like I've seen a lot of top kids develop, and
They're
a
all
lot of
different
people.
at different ages, right? Like you don't know when it's going to happen. You didn't develop till you were 20. I didn't develop till I was my second, third year on the Sure Kings, right?
I let them have fun, stay at home, get on the rink, get on the outdoor rink,
And love the
shoot,
game, right?
go play baseball, play some street hockey, enjoy his friends.
Exactly.
When he comes to you and says, "Dad, I want to go play hockey," then let him go.
Yeah, if you want to be one, go do it, right?
Yeah, it's everybody has different philosophies on it. I mean, but like I've seen so many different situations through my career, and
You
my
would meet a
biggest
lot of parents, eh?
yeah, we meet a lot of people, but I mean, my advice to hockey parents is to be a parent and love your kid and be there to support them and him or her and
Do the
give them
best you
everything that
can,
you
right?
can. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I agree. I honestly, I don't really have much else for you. We've kind of just bounced around. It's not like a normal episode. We've just kind of been chatting because I think it's been too long, you know?
yeah, it's been a long time, man. I have so many great memories of not only recruiting you but coaching you and seeing you develop and
Well, it's
every
like you've been
meeting.
doing that with so many people, and it's like it's so important to me in my life. It's like you as a
Yeah,
coach and like you
yeah,
recruiting me. And now that I think of like all the different people you've recruited and all the different people that you've put together, it changes the way I think of like you're just doing it year by year, right? Like, and for me, Stretch, Daryl, and Yance, like every day was like life and death, and it was like, and like you guys are just doing the best you can as coaches and trying to help us grow up, and like we're donkeys and we're doing our thing and we're screwing up, and like, yeah, you don't realize it until you grow up that like, you know, you know.
yeah. I do know, and I tell people that a lot of times. Like my message to my players when I became a head coach is I said, listen, you guys aren't going to always agree or understand some of the decisions that I'm making right now. I said, but when you're 30, 35 years old with a wife and a couple kids, you're going to look back and probably fully understand some of those decisions that I made. And sometime you probably turn around and say, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's, I mean, I firmly believe in, a lot of the things that I do. And that's why I think big reason why I continue to do it.
Well, and I think with all the different the kids you've changed a lot of people's lives, right? And yeah, it's interesting to hear like your side of it because like if you've been doing NCAA for 19 seasons, like you're doing something special. Like you're not just out of school for a couple of years. Like you're in Kalamazoo for 9 years, you're in Rio for years, you're in Michigan Tech for years. Like it's when you're a good person and it seems like guys I like from around here, small town people that, you know, what the small town is. Like you're not gonna screw a guy because then everybody's gonna find out you screwed the guy
Yeah,
and
true.
you're worth your word, right? Like if you
Yeah,
say you're gonna do something, you do it.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, for me, I've always made decisions based on growth. I mean, like my philosophy is I want to try and get better. I want to try and coach at the highest level that I can possibly coach at. And I mean, every decision that I made when I left Western Michigan and went to Rio Grande Valley, and then when I left Rio to go and get into college and get college head coaching experience, and I mean, being able to learn and grow there and have success there, and now get myself into a situation back at Division 1 level to be able to learn and grow and deal with a different kid. And I mean, and just to be able to, as soon as I stop feeling that I'm growing at this sport, it's time for me to go do something else. um I
I
mean,
don't
like,
think you're doing anything else, big guy. You love it.
no, but
You love
that's how.
hockey and you're not doing anything else. And
Yeah.
the thing is you're on your 22nd coaching season of like as a job, as a career, and you ain't even 50 yet. Eh? Like,
Yeah.
so when are you 50? Is that coming soon?
No, I just turned 49 actually.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I just turned 49, so that'll be next year. um Yeah, but we're empty nesters now because both of our kids are out. So we actually just sold our house. We had kept our house at Stevens Point, and my wife and I have actually lived apart for 4 years. So I've lived up north by myself, and she stayed in Stevens Point to be closer to our kids. And then she just actually just moved up north, and we sold our house, and she got a job, and
And
yeah,
now
we're
you're
by
full
ourselves.
time up there.
Yeah,
The
we're full
the
time.
hockey world, the hockey life, and like what wives go through, what children go through, and like it's not like it's bad. It's life experiences. You're
Yeah.
doing different shit, right? Like there's some people that don't do anything, right? They just stay there and they don't do anything. And then there's some people that go out there and do shit.
Well, people think we're crazy. Like a lot of
We are
people that.
kind of crazy, right? You just said you lived apart from your wife for 4 years.
Yeah, we did, but she came and visited once a month, and we're fortunate. I was able to I go back to Wisconsin in summer and work from there, and come up north when needed. It was 4-hour drive, so we just made it work. And we probably did it more for the kids than we did for ourselves.
Because
You know
they've
what I mean?
grown
But
up with all their friends and they that's their big years, right? Is
yeah,
you can't take them away from those kids to take them to
yeah,
Michigan
up there.
Tech because then all
No,
of a sudden it
yeah.
changes their yeah, no, I get it totally.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't want to do that to them. So we said that we were going to sacrifice for them and get through it. And we have a lot of great friends back there still. And like I said, unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
But not now now we've
Turn
moved
the
up there.
page.
Yeah, and on. people all the time. I have friends back home call all the time, and they have our name in their address book, and there's like 8 different addresses that have been slashed out.
Or phone
And
numbers, right? Like the
yeah, and
phone numbers, like
I know.
that's
And
what that cost me a lot of friendships, right? When I was
yeah,
a hockey player, is
yeah,
because every year you get a new phone number and like
yeah,
the numbers didn't always transfer over. And then next thing
yeah,
you know, it's like, well, whose number do I got now? Right. And then
sure.
there's some guys from back home or wherever you just lost the number, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's I still like I still I look back on, I've been doing this for 22 years, and looking back on those 22 years, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Like, I mean, like I look at every experience as a positive experience, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and like I said before, when you win,
Ah,
everything's sort of validated.
I
I
know.
mean, sure, I want to be a head coach again. Like, I want to have my own program. I want to be a head coach at some point, but as long as I'm in an environment where I can continue to grow and impact the people around me and help them achieve their goals, and I mean, give them the resources they need academically and athletically, and help them. I mean, like, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing.
Well, and there's no doubt. I think that you'll find you'll figure it out. And you'll become a head coach. I think an NCAA like Division 1 program next time, because like you get 22 years and you're not even 50 yet, and you understand the whole every side of the business and like how the whole thing works. And now, like you've said, like you've learned from your mistakes. You learned from, like, it's about relationships, right? It's about
Yeah,
getting to know the kids. And like it's like for me being a minor hockey coach now, it's like, well, what kid can I talk to like this and what kid can I talk to like that, right? And you
sure,
build the relationships and like you get
sure.
to know them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish, looking back, I wish I would have been able to impact those players early in my career with the experiences that I have now. You know what I mean? Like, I just look at it, and think about,
Well,
look
we
back
all
on,
did just fine. And I think
yeah,
we all became who we were going to become.
yeah,
There's no, like, I don't know. I mean, like look at Patty Dwyer, look at some of the guys that made it, right? Like, I mean, you guys, I don't know. There were some times when we were bag skating, my senior year, where you know what, I got to ask you this before we shut her down, is whether or not, like, I didn't know what you thought of it. I think you were like, they were trying to decide if you were like a co-head coach, because I think it was probably Rio Grande's trying to take you away, right? So they're like, well, we got to pay this guy more, we got to keep him here, we don't want him to go to Rio Grande. And then you bring in Chris Frank, you bring in Claxon, you bring in all these guys that are like fighters in NCAA. And then I'm a scorer and I'm a little guy that like used to have, you know, scorers around. Like I used to have Pat Dwyer, Jeff Campbell, Dana Lattery, all these guys that could like really give her. And then we're bringing in fighters. And I'm like, this is different for me, as a senior who could have left after his junior year. This is different.
yeah.
Right?
We added some meat to that lineup.
Yeah. So was that your decision? Did you like the I my only questions before we shut it down are, you brought some meat to the lineup and the bags. So you bring meat to the lineup and then they start taking penalties in college. So then everybody starts bag skating. Does that make sense? That's my only question before we shut it down.
Well, I think it was I think it, I think we looked at hockey being a team sport. I think that was part of it. Those guys were there to
They were part of the team.
they
And
were
like,
there to tough they were there to toughen you guys up. Remember the day they fought? Remember the day that Frank and Claxon fought?
I somewhat, like, I kind of, I remember being like from junior year, like when I'm like, up for whatever and I'm doing well. And then the next year I'm like, okay, who are they bringing in? What are they bringing in? And then they're bringing in like fighters. And I'm like, we're playing college. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm playing beanbags and getting crushed.
You scored 25 goals that year.
I did fine, but we didn't have a very good team. You're laughing. I'm glad you're laughing because
Hey,
uh
those are two great guys, though.
no,
Great
they
team
are
guys.
great guys. I just
Great guys.
Claxon was I would say out of the two guys I ever played pro hockey with, or not pro hockey with, most dangerous in warm-ups, Chris or Claxon, Matt Claxon, not Chris, Matt Claxon,
Yeah, man.
Clacker, and Mark Heatley in Germany.
Okay.
Both of them just cruising around, no clue what, like they could run into anybody at any point. It doesn't matter. It's dangerous out there. You got to keep your head up.
That's funny.
But yeah, Western Michigan, when Clacker was skating around, it was actually dangerous in warm-ups because he thought he was getting ready to like drop the gloves at center ice like at the start of the game. And you're like, well, what do you mean? We're playing NCAA. We're not even allowed to fight.
Yeah. Well, some of those times, man. Yeah,
Oh, but then we'd bag skate after they'd take penalties. And I was like, okay, so jeepers, you know?
well, they got you into shape, Wally.
We tried, right? We always tried.
That's funny.
Okay, but thank you very much for coming on. And it's been way too long, man.
Hey, buddy, I appreciate it. I had a blast. Great catching up.
No, seriously. And I can't wait to watch your squad this year and see how you guys do. And I can't wait to see your coaching career keep going, man, because like it's quite impressive this long. And like it's more like in the real world, you don't see that many people stay at a job for that long. And you have loyalty. You stay with teams. You see it through. And yeah, and you changed my life. Listening to these stories, you're the reason this all happened. I met my wife. I have my kids. It's all very strange, right?
How's
And
your
I
how's
met
your
Yance, Stretch, and Daryl,
how's your
right?
family? How's your family doing?
We're all good, man. Yeah, no, I got the young bucks right into hockey, and the daughter just decided to start at yeah. So it's great, man. All's good.
Your mom and dad?
Mom and dad are great too. Yeah, they come up to Concordant all the time where I'm living now, with the cottage here. So yeah, no, they're up all the time and they're good. Everybody's good. My sister married my best friend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, do you remember Scott? Scott Weaver? He would come up. Would you remember my good buddy that he was the mascot
Yeah.
for the Elmira Sugar
Yeah.
Kings at one point?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
pissed on the Culleton logo one time, and all the Culletons got really mad at him, all the fans. They
Oh,
actually got really mad at him back when I was a junior B player and we were in the finals against them. He was the mascot. He went out as the Elmira Shirking Lion and pretended to piss on the Culleton logo.
that wouldn't go over very well in the Allman.
It didn't. But yeah, now he's my brother-in-law.
Well, next time I'm up in that area, I'll get together with you. Make sure you say hi to your parents for me.
Absolutely, man. And thank you for everything you did. And thank you for recruiting me out of Elmira and giving me the opportunities you did, man. And it's pretty cool to hear you're bringing together a bunch of roommates every season like you did for me and my buddies, you know?
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure, man. I really enjoyed it. Great seeing you. Had a great career.
It was an average career, but
Yeah.
this has been another episode of Two Ales and Hockey Tales with Brooksy and Wally.